I've noticed that a lot of automotive journalists these days are doing comparison tests. You know, Accord versus Camry, BMW versus Mercedes. So I thought, why not get into that racket? So today I've decided to do a highly informative comparison test that pits this Hummer against this original Mini. Now, you might think this is an unfair comparison because these two cars are so different, but that is where you're mistaken. These cars have a lot more similarities than you think. For example, they both have roughly the same power-to-weight ratio. They both have round headlights. They both have transparent windows. Besides, this isn't just any Mini. This is a 1984 Mini 25, which celebrated the 25th anniversary of the Mini. And what did that special designation get you? There are 25 logos on the seats, along with red interior piping and red seat belts. There's a 25 logo on the steering wheel and on the actual wheels. There are several Mini 25 logos on the exterior and these cool stripes down the side. Of course, the 25th anniversary edition model also gave you the pleasure of knowing that you were driving around in a car that had been designed almost 3 decades earlier. Unfortunately, the 25th anniversary edition didn't come with any extra power under the hood. Now, this is the same 1-liter 4-cylinder that powered all Minis of its era. It's only got 40 horsepower. And while that may not seem so bad, given the Mini's small size, the Mini actually has the same power-to-weight ratio as the Camry, if the Camry had 85 horsepower. But the engine isn't the only thing that's small about the Mini. Let's talk wheels. These are 12s. 12s. And the tire itself is only about as wide as this roll of toilet paper. You also have these mirrors, which are smaller than my hand. And then you have these little turn signals, which don't really say, I'm going to turn, as much as they say, can I please turn now? Inside you have the pedals, which are a little small. And then there are the air vents. There are only 2. Presumably it only needs 2 for the entire cabin. But they're so small that I can completely stop airflow with just 2 fingers. But you already knew the original Mini was small. After all, I'm currently standing next to it and you can't even see it. But just how small is it? It's only 120 inches long, and that means it will fit entirely within the wheelbase of this old Chevy Caprice wagon. It also means you can park it next to a Camry and come up nearly 6 feet short, as I'm demonstrating. It's also only 55 inches wide, which means it is 3 feet narrower than the Hummer. In fact, here's a stat that will blow your mind. The Hummer's width is closer in inches to the Mini's length than to the Mini's width. For proof, here's a shot of the Mini parked perpendicular to the Hummer. For those of you who don't know anything about my Hummer, allow me to explain. Number 1, it's big. Number 2, it's yellow. And number 3, it's big. Ah, the age-old comparison test question. Which is better? Well, we're going to find out by starting where most comparison tests start. Inside. Now, I admit the Mini is a little tight for a guy like me, who's 6'3", but surprisingly, it's actually not so bad. Getting in back is a slightly different story. But once you're back here, it's not really so bad. Until... no car uses its interior space worse than the Hummer. Allow me to explain what I mean. This is the back seat. It's narrow and tiny, and there's about enough footroom for a light bulb, maybe a paperback book. Both Both cars have a wide range of highly advanced tech features. For example, the Mini has hazard lights. The Hummer has a horn. The Mini has a parking brake. The Hummer has a CD player that doesn't work. The Mini has hazard lights. Yet neither of these cars has any tech features at all. So how do these two cars drive? Well, the Hummer drives exactly like you'd expect. Big, slow, awful. But when you're driving it, you do get the feeling that you are the king of the road. Whereas the Mini is just so much fun.
Oh God. God, this is actually surprisingly enjoyable. The best part is you're not even violating the speed limit, right? You look down and I'm going 40 kilometers.
That's where these cars really get you. See, part of the reason the Mini is so fun to drive is because it weighs so little. And part of the reason it weighs so little, well, check this out. This door, this thick. I'm guessing there's not a whole lot of crash protection in there. And then there's another problem, namely, if I barrel down the street in my Hummer and hit the Mini, the bumper lines up right here. And if I was driving the Mini, that means I wouldn't have a head anymore. I think we've established an obvious conclusion here. If you want a car that's tiny and fun and enjoyable and fast, you get the Mini. And if you want a car that can silence all that joy with one stab of the accelerator, you get the Hummer.